Council members: Friedman.
Here.
Manukian. Najarian.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Mayor Quintero.
Here. May we have your report?
The agenda for the August 14, 2012 special public meeting of the City Council was posted on Thursday, August 9, 2012 on the bulletin board outside the City Hall. Before you is a public hearing, Director of Community Development, regarding sign variance request from Legacy Partners for Islands Restaurant located within City Center 1 at 101 North Grand Boulevard. 1A is motion approving variance based on findings and conditions of approval.
Mr. Ochoa.
Yes, sir. During the very tough economic times, we are trying our best to make sure that we are helping businesses maximize their revenue hours of operation, but doing so especially when it comes to signage in a way that maintains high quality for that signage. And so we have before you a unique sign opportunity from Islands Restaurant, and Vilia Zematitis will give you the presentation.
Good afternoon, council members. Just previously stated, we have a projecting sign variance proposal from Islands Sign. The variance request is for 4 items from the zoning code. One would be the area of the sign. They are proposing approximately a 33 square foot sign versus the 6 square foot sign permitted by the sign code for projecting signs. Variance for width, it's 13 inches wide versus the 6 permitted. It is proposed to be internally illuminated, whereas most by code, projecting signs are required to be directly illuminated. And for location, the projecting sign itself is attached to a stairwell shaft in the garage versus at the storefront.
Mr. Mayor, you may want to open the public hearing.
Okay, I will open the public hearing.
Thank you. The slide you see now on the screen depicts the actual projecting sign and its square footage and its width. The sign will be located, as you see here, on the south elevation facing Broadway. And forgive me, this is the corner here. Islands is actually located on the corner of Orange and Broadway. As you all well know, that Broadway and Brand is one of the most significant intersections here in the city. And whereas City Center 1 has great street frontage, Islands itself is very difficult to be seen from the Brand Broadway intersection simply because of the curvature of Broadway and the projection of the stairwell shaft that comes closer to the street. So given its location and its lack of visibility from the Broadway-Brand intersection, Islands is proposing a projecting sign on the stairwell shaft that you see highlighted in order to allow for greater visibility to the Islands location. The slide you see before you is the street view facing north. Go back to the slide. You'll notice that the Islands storefront is depicted by the blue awnings, and here highlighted by my pointer is the actual elevator shaft for the location of the sign adjacent to the parking structure. This will be the view that you would see from the Brand Broadway intersection. You'll see the before slide footage on the left and an after image on the right, and it's best visible by that highlighted red oval you see. The sign itself is shown as being 15 feet above the sidewalk level for a clearance of 15 feet, but because of the street trees themselves and the visibility or lack thereof on that stairwell shaft, staff is even suggesting possibly a sign that goes higher on the shaft with a greater clearance in order to increase the visibility.
They're not going to ask us to start trimming that tree down because it's blocking their sign, are they? Because I would not support that.
Okay. And that's why staff is recommending actually a greater clearance. So the sign could essentially be moved even further up for greater visibility. So that concludes staff's presentation. If and when approved, the projecting sign would then be wrapped into the sign program that was approved by the City Council in 2008. Are there any questions?
Any comments or questions?
So I have a question, Mr. Mayor. The sign is actually a bit further from the restaurant.
That is correct. And that is a variance request that they are requiring.
So what does staff think about that? That it might be just too distant from the actual
Well-
restaurant? Let's say,
It's the curvature of...
right. No, I understand why, because it sort of drops off.
It's where you're going into the parking garage they want to capture.
Let's say another restaurant leases the vacant space.
Well, essentially, the location, and let me go back in the slide to the site plan. Yes, we have approved actual off-premise signage for the City Center One project. If you recall, along Brand Boulevard, there are signs that are on the second level that are not directly adjacent to their storefronts that are inside. And so there is previous precedence on this particular project site, given the actual 1.5 acre site, that the signs might not be directly attached to the storefront. And again, they are requesting a variance for essentially a projecting sign that is not on their storefront. But staff, given the various site constraints and the visibility factor, found that there would be the possibility of actually supporting a sign that is not directly adjacent to their storefront.
And I can live with that. My other point is, I can hardly see that sign in your graphic. I can hardly see that. I mean, that's like. Is that what? Do they?
No, they
You
again.
notice that too? I mean, that it is a little difficult.
It's up. Now, if the council so wishes, this is what they are proposing. And forgive me, I'm going to.
We're speaking with we just spoke with the applicant. That's why staff is recommending to have some flexibility to push the sign further up. And the applicant is telling us that they may consider pushing it up for that exact same reason that you mentioned. That is the reason, because we do think that the trees might block the sign. By pushing it up, the sign could be visible from further away on Broadway and also more definitely from the intersection.
And is it going to be a neon?
It's going to be in a reverse channel letter, so there will be some exposed neon. So it's going to be a combination of neon, reverse channel letters, and regular individual channel letter, the box on the end that actually states the island logo message.
My last point is not specific to this, but it seems in that whole downtown core yard, very much encouraging the use of bright, artistic signage, which does depart from our existing standards. Is it something maybe we want to think about at some point where we give them a little bit more flexibility rather than having to come? I mean, we've got our overlay zone, right? But that's a different.
We have
type
the
of-
overlay zone for basically advertising of the materials other than the storefronts themselves in a particular location. Also in the downtown specific plan, we have introduced the use of creative signs that would be larger and used and could use materials that would otherwise not be permitted, such as neon and sometimes even animated lighting through the creative sign permit. However, we're revisiting the downtown specific plan sign requirements to just see whether or not the sizes of the signage that we allow by right should be revisited, or maybe allow some flexibility by staff in doing administrative review of signage when it's appropriate based on some criteria. Yes, the answer to your question is yes. We think we should revisit that. We think that downtown has moved away from the Glendale of 20 years ago, and there's a little bit more room and flexibility, especially with the use of new media and technology, to allow a little bit more attractive signing.
We were talking about, Councilmember Friedman was talking to you about completion dates or dates where we're going to see some design for the new Bloomingdale's. But that's particularly one store where I think a large, attractive sign, because everyone wants to know where is the Bloomingdale's, when's it coming, how do I get into it? For purposes of our redevelopment staff and the city and the economic development group, that was a large coup to get them in. It was, I think, a leap of faith also for Bloomingdale's in some respects, because they were very much hesitant in previous years to come in. So I think that's the type of location and retailer that we should be very flexible with in terms of letting them have a depart, let's say, depart from our current Old Fogey. Did you say Old Fogey sign?
It's an older Glendale.
Older Glendale.
I think the fogey part was implied, though.
I'm just thinking out loud, but I know it's not directly pertinent to this issue, but I think
Don't mention my name.
in the larger sense.
I think the point's very well taken, sir, to the extent that we can maintain very high quality for materials and for creativeness. I mean, good quality stuff that's designed by very artistic, creative people. I think that's, to be able to give that kind of flexibility for those folks making that kind of investment, I think you're right on point.
I support the sign. It's a very difficult location, the way it fronts Broadway and Orange, so I think this is a good idea, and it should help a bit, help identify the restaurant, which has been there for a long time, so I generally think it's a plus, and I kind of like the design. Looks kind of cool. Mr. Weaver, you have any comment?
No, but as an old fogey, I will state, I think this is the right way to go. Actually, down there.
That was self-identification.
And we used to have some old neon signs and stuff there. They were plain old ugly, but technology has really changed things, so we got to react to it.
Okay, do I have a,
I'll move,
Mr. Mayor,
close the hearing.
I'll close the public hearing.
I'll move 1A.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmembers Friedman,
Yes.
Menuchyan, Najarian,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Quintero.
Yes. Next.
Move
Next
we
is
adjourn.
adjournment. There's no other
Move to
items
adjourn?
on the agenda.
Second.
Okay, we are adjourned.